Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing two different book tags, the Ultimate Harry Potter book tag and the Shakespeare Journey book tag. So the reason I'm doing both of these tags is because I am participating in the Back to Hogwarts readathon as well as the Shakespeare readathon in the month of September, and I thought these were very fitting to do. I don't know at this point if I'm going to get this video out before the end of September or if it's going to come out in very early October, but I at least wanted to get it filmed and out to you guys close to when the readathon is happening. So here we are. So the Ultimate Harry Potter tag I saw done by Cheryl at Candlewick Library, and I don't know who the original is. If I do find the original, I will link it down in the description, but I don't know off the top of my head who it is. And there are a lot of questions, so let's just go ahead and get this one started. So they are divided up into several categories, and the first category is general. And the first question is, what is your favorite book? And I think at this point, my favorite book is actually Order of the Phoenix, which is weird because when I originally read the series, it was my least favorite book. My favorite book the first time I read it was Goblet of Fire. And I think the only reason it's not my favorite anymore is because I don't read it the same now that I know the end of the book. And that's all I'm going to say for anyone who hasn't read it. And it makes the reading experience very different. I still do really enjoy the Triwizard Tournament. That was one of the main reasons why I enjoyed Goblet of Fire. I also love the character of Mad-Eye Moody, which was another reason why I loved the book so much. But at this point, I do still enjoy it, but it's not my favorite book anymore. And normally I wouldn't say the fifth one is my favorite. Like if I just sat and thought about it, I would probably lean towards the sixth one because that's where we get a lot of Riddle family history. However, both the third and the fifth books, and the fifth book even more so, when I read them, they are the books that I can't put down. I don't want to put them down. I just want to read them straight through. The last couple times I've read through the series, I've stayed up until about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning finishing the third book. I don't do that with the fifth one because it's so long, but it's always like when I'm not reading it, I want to be reading it. I don't know what it is about that book. It has so many things in it that I don't care for. It has Umbridge. It has the education decrees or whatever she calls those. There's a lot of things in the book that I don't like. A lot of the political stuff. Actually, that makes me go, maybe that's why I enjoy it, because I actually like political intrigue. That might be what actually makes me like that book so much. The next question is least favorite book. I will try not to ramble on all of these. My least favorite book, I feel like is probably Chamber of Secrets. And I'm not sure I can tell you exactly why, but I don't feel like I like that book as much as the others. Question number 3 is your favorite movie. Honestly, my favorite movie is probably the first one, simply because while I like some of the other movies, there's a lot of things that got left out, either in previous movies or in those movies, and they're things that I think should have been in them. Or they were left out in previous movies, and so they don't make sense in the later movies. So I would probably go with the first one is my favorite. I do enjoy watching them, but there's always things that I notice that are missing that I wish weren't. Question number 4 is your least favorite movie, and that's going to be the third one. And the main reason is because I remember watching the movie after rereading the third book, and it felt like every 5 minutes I was noticing something that was either not in the books, or was removed from the books, or was changed from the books. Yeah, that one has probably some of the biggest deviations from the books. Question number 5 is your favorite quote. And I mean, there's a lot of really good quotes, but it's always the humorous ones that stand out to me. And the two that come to mind are, I've always wanted to use that spell. And actually both of these quotes are from McGonagall. The other one is Biscuit Potter, after she questions him about confronting Umbridge in class. There's a lot of really good, serious, sentimental quotes, but I always think of the funny ones when I think of favorite quotes. The next category is characters, and the first question is your favorite Weasley, and that is easily Fred and George. I love the Weasley twins and their antics in the books, and I'm so sad that they did not get more screen time in the movies. Question number 7 is your favorite female character, and I think I just have to go with McGonagall for this one. I love McGonagall's character. I love her heart for the students. I love her snarkiness. I love her character in general. Question number 8 is your favorite villain. And I'm sure most people are going to give the same answer. It's Umbridge. She's the villain you love to hate. Question number 9 is your favorite male character. And for me, this one is Lupin. As much as I don't like the third movie, I love the third book and I love Lupin's character. And question number 10 is your favorite professor, which, I mean, technically I could go with Lupin or McGonagall for this one. Yeah, I'm trying to come up with another professor that stands out. I would say Mad-Eye Moody, but, you know. So yeah, I'm probably going with either Lupin or McGonagall, and it's probably still going to be McGonagall. The next category is Would You Rather. And the first one is, would you rather wash Snape's hair or spend a day listening to Lockhart rant about himself? And I think I'll probably go with wash Snape's hair because 1, it really needs it, and 2, that one's over quicker. Question number 12 is, would you rather duel an elated Bellatrix or an angry Molly? And I'm going with an elated Bellatrix. As much as Bellatrix scares me, an angry Molly is scarier. I mean, clearly, we know how that worked out. So, next is, would you rather travel to Hogwarts via the Hogwarts Express or a flying car? And absolutely the Hogwarts Express. I don't think I would trust that car very far in the first place, but I would love to ride the Hogwarts Express. And question number 15 is, would you rather ride a hippogriff or a firebolt? And I'm going with a firebolt. Hippogriffs can be temperamental, and as long as they're okay with you, it's probably safer. I think I'd rather have the firebolt, so I'm still in control. The next category is book to movie adaptations. And the first question is there a character which you felt differently about in the movies versus the books? There's probably several. Lee Jordan doesn't get near enough screen time. You really don't even know who he is in the movies, to be honest, because I think you only see him commentate on 1 or 2 Quidditch matches, and you don't even get the reprimands from McGonagall in those. So I feel like he's very unknown in the movies compared to the books. So him I definitely feel differently about. I would say even Lavender Brown I do. While I still don't care for her character, I think she's a little too head over heels for Ron in the 6th one. I at least kind of feel bad for her in the books at the end. I don't in the movie, because we really don't get the whole this is why Ron is doing it in the first place. It just looks like, oh, they actually like each other, and then, oh, randomly they broke up. Yeah, I do feel a little bit different about her in the books. Like I said, she is still the type of girl that kind of gets on my nerves, but I at least actually feel some sympathy towards her in the books and not so much in the movie. Fleur is also another one now that I think about it, because we missed the whole scene in the infirmary in the 6th book. So there's a lot of characters I feel differently about. Question 17 is there a movie you prefer to the book? And no. All of the movies left out something or changed something or added something. The first one would be the closest. Well, the first or the second ones would be the closest, but there's still enough that was changed. I still prefer the books. Question 18 is Richard Harris or Michael Gambon? And Richard Harris. It's really too bad that he passed away as soon as he did. Question number 19 is your top thing, person, or event which wasn't included in the movies that annoyed you the most. Probably the one that actually annoys me the most is the mirror that Harry was given by Sirius. And the main reason it annoys me is because of the fact that the mirror shard shows up in either the 7th or 8th movie, or both, with no explanation. And we're not even given an explanation that Harry thinks it's Dumbledore he's seen in the mirror shard. There's a lot of things just not done well with that, and it's like, because it didn't show up in the earlier movies, I don't even know why it was included in the 7th one. I mean, I do, but I don't. That one probably annoys me the most because of continuity issues. The other one that really annoys me is really some stuff in the 4th one, and it's the lack of the house elves in the 4th one, and also Ludo Bagman and Fred and George's winnings from the World Cup. Like, that whole thing missing. Because, again, it comes with continuity issues. They set up this joke shop. How in the world did they manage to afford to set up this joke shop if we don't have the whole, they lost their winnings, Harry gave them his winnings. We don't have any of that in the fourth movie. So it just creates a lot of continuity issues later, or raises a lot of questions later. So those are probably the two that annoy me the most as far as the continuity issues. The mirror bothers me the most. But Fred and George's winnings and the lack of the house elves, which really kind of helps explain the mystery in the fourth book, still annoys me a lot. Question 20 is, if you could remake any of the Potter movies, which would it be? And probably the fifth one, to be honest. Yes, there are things I obviously want to fix in the fourth one. There are things I want to fix in the third one. But the fifth one, when I watched it with the fifth book still somewhat fresh in mind. I'd finished it a few months prior, but it really felt like someone took up the book, chopped it up with chef's knives, grabbed a whole bunch of it in their hands and said, this is what we're putting in the movie. It felt very choppy. There's hardly anything of Draco in the movie. Just so many things are missing. It's the longest book in the series and the shortest movie. That one I would remake because that one honestly probably needed to be divided into two parts the same way the seventh one was. There's just way too much missing in that movie that's important. So that's the one that I would probably remake. The next category is Hogwarts. Which house was your first gut feeling you'd be a part of? And 100% Ravenclaw. When I first read the Harry Potter books, granted I was 18 when I first started reading them, I very much, once I really got to know the houses, felt like I would be in Ravenclaw. And when I found out that the way to get into their dormitory was by answering a riddle, you cannot imagine how ecstatic I was about that. So 100% I would be a Ravenclaw. The next question is, which house were you actually sorted into on Pottermore, or another online sorting quiz? Now, I did the sorting in the original Pottermore, and from what I understand, that one was extremely skewed towards you getting Gryffindor and extremely skewed away from you getting Slytherin. I don't know so much about Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw. So I took the quiz multiple times. I am not going to lie. I think I got Gryffindor 3 times and Hufflepuff once or twice. I can tell you right now, I am not a Gryffindor. There is absolutely no way. I can believe Hufflepuff. I could potentially buy Slytherin, although I think that's a stretch. I am not a Gryffindor. There is absolutely no way. Then when the new Pottermore came up, I took a quiz and I got Slytherin. I took it again and I finally got Ravenclaw. So basically I took the quiz till I got the answer I wanted because I figured out which answers gave me what I wanted. I don't know if that makes me a Slytherin or a Ravenclaw that I cheated, but I wanted Ravenclaw. And I wasn't getting Ravenclaw because the quiz did not seem to want to give me that one. Question 23 is, which class would be your favorite? And that's a really good question. I want to go with either Ancient Runes or Arithmancy, which I know are a couple of the upper level classes, but I love languages. I love the idea of learning old languages, unused languages, forgotten languages. I also really enjoyed math in school, anything to do with numbers. So I think Arithmancy would be fun too. Question 24 is, which spell do you think would be the most useful to learn? In my everyday life, Accio. That way, anytime I can't find my phone, I can't find my car keys, I can't find something for the kids for school, whatever it may be, just Accio and there it is. And the next question is, which character at Hogwarts do you think you would instantly become friends with? I want to say Hermione because both of us really like reading, both of us really like learning. So it seems like we would become instant friends, but at the same time, I could see it being a case of we're two alike and we would butt heads. In all honesty, I think it would probably actually be Jenny. Because, well, one of two people, either be Jenny or it would be Luna. Jenny because she's fairly level-headed and I think we could at least get along really well and not have a whole bunch of drama. Luna because I tend to end up actually being friends with people that, and not always, but a lot of times I end up being friends with the people that nobody else really gets along with. and Luna would fit right into that. And the last category is miscellaneous. The first question is, if you could own one of the 3 hallows, which would it be? It would be the invisibility cloak. I don't need the resurrection stone, and I don't want to be hunted down for the elder wand. So I would go with the invisibility cloak. The next question is there any aspect of the books that you would want to change? It can be a character, an event, anything. And I don't know. I think the biggest thing that I can think of is in the Tri-Wizard tournament, I would have different events. Because as a lot of people have pointed out, the first event is a lot of fun for people to watch. The other 2 events, not so much. They go underwater and they can't see anything, or they go in a maze and the people in the audience can't see anything. It doesn't seem like that much fun to watch. So I would probably come up with different events so the spectators can actually enjoy watching the tournament. The next one is your favorite marauder. And again, this would be Lupin. Sirius is a close second. I do really like Sirius, but Lupin is still my favorite. The next one is, if you could bring any character back to life, who would it be? And 100% it would be Fred. There are others I would love to bring back if I could bring back more than one. But just due to his age, the fact that he has a twin, like 100% Fred I would bring back. And the last question is Hallows or Horcruxes? And I think this is, which one would you want to hunt down? And I would go with Horcruxes because I would rather get rid of those than hunt for all of the Deathly Hallows. All right, so those are all of the questions for the Ultimate Harry Potter tag. So now I'm going to do the Shakespeare Journey tag. This was created by Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading, who is also one of the Shaktember hosts. And she actually suggested that I do this in the comments of my Shaktember TBR video. So I thought I'm already doing a Harry Potter one. Why not go ahead and do the Shakespeare one? And this is another slightly long one, though not as long as the Harry Potter one. The first question is, what was your first experience reading Shakespeare and what was it like? I know I read Romeo and Juliet when I was in 9th grade, but I feel like I at least read part of it when I was in 8th grade. And if I did, I don't remember anything from it. 9th grade I do remember better, and the main thing I remember from it is there were things about the story that I didn't know because I did have an idea of the story before I read it in class. If any of you remember the TV show Wishbone, I actually had the book of Romeo and Juliet from that show. So I knew a good portion of the story from that, but there were things I still didn't know, and even knowing the story, there were plenty of times that I found Shakespeare's language very confusing. That's the main thing that I remember about it, and we also watched 2 movie adaptations of it, so I had a pretty good idea of the story by the time we were done, but there were definitely times reading in class where I was a little bit confused, and I will be honest, it wasn't a play that I loved. I thought there were good parts to it, but I definitely didn't love it. The next question is, has the reading of a Shakespeare play ever brought you to tears? What scene was it, and where were you when it happened? And at this point, I have read so many. I mean, I haven't read near all of them. I've read maybe half of them. But I've read so many of them that I honestly couldn't tell you. I can tell you ones that made me laugh, but I'm not sure I can tell you any that made me cry. I don't know for sure if they ever have, simply because, I don't know. I don't feel like reading the play I get as much of the emotion as I do out of reading a book or if I was watching the play. And I've only seen one of the plays, and it was in a movie. So, well, okay, 2, because I did see the 2 adaptations of Romeo and Juliet. And I probably cried in those, possibly, but I don't know if I have while reading the plays. Question number 3 is, are there any people who have played a significant role in your Shakespeare journey? And the main one would be one of my professors in college who taught my Shakespeare class. Because I don't even know. We read, I would say, at least 8 plays in that class. Some of them I had read before. I'd read Hamlet before. I'd read Macbeth. Though I will be honest, I don't know what happened with Macbeth. I read the play. I was enjoying it. I finished it. I swear I closed the book and I forgot everything. And I kid you not, because I finished it at work and I remember closing it, putting it in my locker and just going, wait a second. I don't remember anything that happened in this play. Like, I closed the book and my brain just dumped it all. I have no idea. It was the weirdest thing. But I had read that one before. I'd read Othello before. I don't know if I read any of the others that we read in that class, but there were plenty that I hadn't read for sure. So there were a lot of things that I obviously learned about in that class to do with Shakespeare in general and to do with his plays that I had never gotten before from just reading them or reading part of one or all of one in a class. Because prior to that, at most I would read one in a class. So I was not getting as much out of them as I did out of that class. Question number 4 is, do you have a favorite film or book about Shakespeare? I really don't. There is a book that I'm wanting to read. It's technically, if I remember right, from the perspective of Shakespeare's younger brother, but it's called Fools and Mortals by Bernard Cornwell. But I can't imagine, if it's about Shakespeare's brother, that Shakespeare doesn't feature prominently into it. So I do really want to read that one. But the only book I've read about Shakespeare at all was called The Shakespeare Thief. And it's a middle grade book about a kid, about a kid who is tasked with trying to steal one of Shakespeare's plays. And I really don't even remember anything about it at this point. And I don't think I've seen any movies about Shakespeare. The closest I've come is the Shakespeare Code in Doctor Who. That episode with the Doctor and Martha. That's about it. I don't even know for this one. Question number 5 is, which character in Shakespeare most resembles you and in what ways? I think the hard part is with only reading most of the plays once, I don't remember the characters super well, and I'm not sure I can really identify a whole lot with the characters in the tragedies, and maybe again because I don't know them as well. The one I'm going to go with is Perdita from The Winter's Tale, and I think the biggest reason is because she ends up having a very humble upbringing, and she is very content with her life. From what I recall, she doesn't seem to be striving to be so much better than she already is. She's willing to just find contentment in the life that she has. And in so many of Shakespeare's plays, a lot of the characters seem to be nobles or royal or something like that. And she has just a very simple, quiet life, and she seems content with that. So I think she's probably one that I would identify with the most. There's a couple others that come to mind, but I don't remember enough about them to say, do I identify with them or not? Question number 6 is, which play would you most like to see performed in theater and why? Oh, there's a lot. I would like to see Macbeth because I just think that play, while it is a tragedy, there are parts of it that I do think would be really fun to see on stage. Although I know that's like the play that's cursed and I think theater people don't care to perform it, but I mean, especially when you have to call it by a different name. The other one probably would be The Winter's Tale, just because of the ending. I would be curious to see that played out on stage. I also wouldn't mind seeing The Tempest though, because there's just so much with that one. I'd be curious as to how that would play out on stage. Question number 7 is, what actor throughout history would you most like to have seen play Hamlet in his prime? And there's one actor I've already seen play Hamlet in his prime, and that was David Tennant. So honestly, I think I probably have to go with Patrick Stewart because he's just such an amazing actor. I would love to have seen him play Hamlet when he was closer to that age. Question number 8 is, deliver your favorite speech or soliloquy from a Shakespeare play. No. I've never been the absolute best at memorizing things to begin with, but I had to memorize a ton of poetry for one of my classes in college, and since then, it's like I have an aversion to memorizing stuff. So I do not have any speeches or soliloquies memorized whatsoever. I mean, the only one I can ever think of is Hamlet's. So yeah, I'm not super versed in Shakespeare, and I am not good with memorization. And no, I don't even know what I would pick. So not like I can go look it up and just recite it from there. Question number 9 is, do any of Shakespeare's plays intimidate you? And if yes, what play and why? And at this point, I don't think so. I've read some of his comedies, some of his histories, some of his tragedies. So having read a wide variety, I don't feel like there's any that intimidate me. There may be some that I'm not as inclined to read as others, but I don't think there's any that intimidate me. Question number 10 is, what tips would you give to intimidated readers coming to Shakespeare for the first time? I think the biggest tip that I would give would be to try to find either a version like No Fear Shakespeare that has both the original Shakespeare on one page with a modern translation, if you will, on the opposite page to help it make more sense, or something like my Folger Shakespeare libraries that have basically a glossary on each page to tell you what certain words and phrases meant in that time, in case you're not familiar with them. Mostly just depending on what your level of understanding the language of Shakespeare's time is. If you have read some things in that language and you're at least kind of familiar, even if you're not overly familiar, I think Folger would be okay. If you're not familiar with it at all and it's the language that intimidates you, I would go more with No Fear Shakespeare. The other thing I would recommend is, prior to sitting down and reading the play, would be to try to find a movie version of it that uses the original Shakespeare language. Because honestly, when we would read plays in class and then watch the movies made a whole lot more sense because I could actually see it acted out on the screen. And even a lot of the lines made more sense just when you actually hear them delivered. So yeah, I would recommend watching an adaptation so you have an idea of what the story is before you go into the play. So that way, as you're reading it, you're just figuring out how they're saying it, but you already know what's happening. Question 11 is, which is your favorite Shakespeare play and why? Right now, I think my favorite play is probably The Tempest. There's a lot to that play. There is magic in it. There's schemes and revenge. There's a love story. There's all sorts of stuff going on in this play. I read it in college and I enjoyed it well enough, but then I did research on it for one of the final papers I had to write in college and just absolutely started falling in love with it. My favorite Shakespeare play at the time that I read it was Cymbeline. And I think one of the biggest reasons is because it was one of the first plays where I feel like I really got Shakespeare's humor. I do remember a scene where I actually stopped reading because I was laughing so hard I couldn't pay attention to the page. And realizing all of a sudden that, wait, I actually understand Shakespeare's humor when I read it in the plays. And like that was kind of a big moment for me in reading Shakespeare, is realizing that I could read the humor and I actually understood it. I know there were a lot of things I enjoyed about Cymbeline, but it's been so long since I've read it, I don't remember enough about it. So I would probably go with The Tempest. And then question 12 is to tag other booktubers. But I don't know for sure which other booktubers have read a whole lot of Shakespeare plays. So I'm just going to say, if you've read Shakespeare's plays and you want to do this tag, consider yourself tagged. That is all I have for you guys for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Also, I guess I should have said the same with the Ultimate Harry Potter tag. If you want to do the tag, consider yourself tagged. If you don't have a YouTube channel or you only want to answer a few questions, feel free to answer them down in the comments below. I will have the questions listed in the description. Other than that, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you later.